right, the mass media campaign, a very popular way to promote a public health objective and a very popular way to try to get people to reduce their substance use. Public mass media campaigns are typically the go-to way to reduce substance use. But the question is, what are they? What can they actually contain? And do they work? So mass media campaigns rely on the idea of social marketing, that you can use the tricks and trades of the marketing world to make social change. And there's really three types. The classic type are the PSAs, the public service announcements, telling you how bad some substance is to your health. We have counter advertising, which focuses both on literally countering the advertising of an industry as well as kind of attacking the industry quite directly. And then we have the use of warning labels, which is kind of it's a type of mass media campaign because it's widely seen, it's seen on a mass scale, but it's a little different delivery because you're actually having the label on the product themselves. So your public service announcements. So these are the type of information you'll get from a public service announcement. They tend to contain some type of information. They tend to contain very negative emotional appeal. So kill your addiction before it kills you. Will meth make me dig at my own skin? The meth project ads are very graphic in that way, saying here's the very specific bad things that will happen if you use this type of substance. And that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to create this very strongly negative emotional reaction to get you to stop using some substance, to not start the some substance, or at the very least reduce your substance use in some way. Counter advertising, again, these are the types of ads that tell you information about the product, the effects of the product, and how the industry essentially has convinced you that the product is okay. The largest and typically the more successful counter advertising campaigns have gone against the tobacco industry. So the screenshot on the left side of the screen, that's an ad from the Truth campaign from the late 90s, early 2000s, where they actually dumped body bags in front of tobacco companies' headquarters. And there was one bag for each death tobacco caused in that day. So there's like 5 to 10,000 body bags dumped in front of these corporate offices. These are also the ads they'll tell you about how the industry knew that nicotine was addictive. They'll tell you about how the industry knew how dangerous the chemicals were. They'll tell you how many chemicals are actually in the product themselves. So it's not these informational, negative, emotional, kind of scarring types of ads like the public service announcements, but they're telling you how you have been deceived by these companies and what the effects really are. And finally, warning labels. So messages on the products themselves that tell you how bad the product can be, what the impact of those products can be. So there are health warning labels on alcoholic beverages in the United States. They're very basic. These are some health warning labels that were being developed to be implemented in Australia, covering everything from drinking alcohol in pregnancy and drunk driving, like here in the United States, but also focusing on cognitive abilities, cancer risk, as well as increased risk of just general injury. In the United States and states that have legalized marijuana, you see these types of warning labels regarding what marijuana can do to an individual. These are text heavy. They're unlikely to be read. Right now, as you're staring at the screen, I would put money on you not actually reading this whole thing. And because of that, they're unlikely to be effective. That's in contrast to tobacco warning labels and the graphic warning labels that are implemented in many countries like Canada, Australia, Brazil, many European countries. Actually, this is the standard type of tobacco warning label in the world today. These are graphic. They are intended to evoke a very emotional appeal and almost want to make you turn away. I can't actually look at that tongue right at the moment with the oral cancer. It gives me that physical, emotional reaction. Now, there have been proposed graphic warning labels in the United States, but they're currently not allowed because they were considered unconstitutional. They basically said they weren't allowed based on the law. They were a violation of the company's commercial free speech rights because they contained a quit line. because they basically encourage people to quit smoking. We basically can't force the companies to tell their consumers not to use their products. So it's a whole kind of legal issue. But these work. These type of warning labels do work. It helps people quit smoking. It encourages people to not start smoking. It encourages people to reduce the amount that they smoke. But the key to all of these is, are they effective? When used alone, particularly when public service announcements are used alone, they don't really work. There are some statistically significant findings, but again, there's few practically significant findings. So maybe there's a statistically significant difference, but maybe the change in prevalence of tobacco smoking, for instance, or amphetamine use, for instance, changed only by a couple tenths of a percent. It was just a really large sample size that was used to get this statistical difference. But when used in combination with other interventions, they do work. So when they raise awareness of things like police stops for drunk driving, or when they reinforce the message of something else, they do work. So take those graphic warning labels for tobacco. When they're used in combination with other messages saying tobacco is bad, so high taxes, secondhand smoke laws, they do work when part of a comprehensive message. And they work more often when a behavior is sporadic rather than habitual. So they work more often on those drunk driving spot checks, because drunk driving is rather, for most people, a sporadic occurrence rather than something that occurs on a daily or hourly basis, like tobacco control. So the main message is that mass media campaigns can be effective, but they are rarely effective when done in isolation. They need to be part of a comprehensive package of policies and a comprehensive package of initiatives in order to exert their full effect. So how to do that? What are some recommendations for producing a mass media campaign to ensure that they are effective? So again, these are the list of recommendations that came from the tobacco control literature. The first one is mass media campaigns should be included as part of a comprehensive approach. So don't do them in isolation. And if you're going to do them, make sure there's enough funding available for them. Make sure they're not just shown at 2 o'clock in the morning when no one is actually going to see it. And if there's funding behind it, make sure that if you're encouraging people to stop using a substance or to quit a substance, that there's access to those services. There's access to smoking cessation services, and there's access to services to help people, prevent drunk driving or to stop their alcohol use. And really the final big thing to take away from this is that whatever messages you use, they need to be researched. They need to be tested. There should be pilot testing done before you do large nationwide programs aimed at reducing this substance use. Because if you just release a bunch of messages to the population at large without testing them, they may not be effective, and you're probably throwing away millions of dollars that was really difficult to get.